She was freezing, alone, and only one night away from death. When a lonely mountain man found a frightened young woman shivering outside his cabin during the fiercest winter storm in years, he didn't ask who she was or where she'd come from. He simply opened the door and said, "You'll not sleep in the cold." Then he handed her the keys to his entire home while he walked into the frozen barn himself. The neighbors called him a fool, but before winter was over, that one act of kindness would change both of their lives forever. Stay until the very end, because the final promise they make beneath the falling snow will warm your heart. Before we begin, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming Wild West stories where kindness, love, and faith always overcome hardship. For nearly 15 years, mountain man Caleb Turner had lived alone in a quiet log cabin nestled deep within the snowy Montana wilderness. Every morning he chopped firewood before sunrise, cared for his horses, trapped game in the surrounding forests, and thanked God for another day, even if no one answered his morning greeting except the whispering pine trees. Loneliness had become as familiar as the mountains themselves, yet Caleb never allowed bitterness to settle inside his heart. His father had once told him, "A warm fire means little unless someone else can share it." Those words stayed with him long after both of his parents had passed away. One bitter December evening, dark clouds swallowed the mountains while heavy snow covered every trail leading home. Caleb hurried back with supplies when he noticed a small figure sitting beside an abandoned fence. Wrapped in nothing more than a thin, worn shawl, a young woman shivered so violently she could barely remain upright. Her boots were soaked through, her dress was torn, and her pale hands trembled from the freezing wind. Caleb immediately climbed down from his horse and gently asked, "Miss, can you stand?" She tried but collapsed into the snow. Without hesitation, Caleb wrapped his heavy fur coat around her shoulders and lifted her onto his wagon. During the slow journey home, she quietly introduced herself as Anna. She explained that after losing both parents, she had worked as a seamstress until dishonest employers refused to pay her wages. With nowhere left to go, she had wandered through the mountains searching for work before the storm trapped her. When they reached the cabin, Caleb opened the wooden door and helped her inside. Warm firelight filled the little room. Anna expected him to offer only a corner near the fireplace, but instead he quietly handed her the cabin key. "You'll not sleep in the cold," he said gently. "This house is yours tonight." Confused, she asked, "Where will you sleep?" Caleb smiled as though it were the simplest thing in the world. "The horses have a warm barn." Before she could protest, he placed bread, stew, and hot coffee on the table before walking back into the snowy darkness. Anna watched through tear-filled eyes as the lonely mountain man disappeared toward the barn, carrying only a lantern and a blanket. That night, while warm beside the fire, she realized no one had ever shown her such selfless kindness. The following morning Anna awoke before dawn, determined not to repay generosity with idleness. She cleaned every corner of the cabin, mended torn curtains, baked fresh bread using Caleb's flour, and prepared breakfast before he returned from feeding the horses. When Caleb stepped through the door, he stopped in surprise. The lonely cabin that had once echoed with silence now smelled of warm biscuits and fresh coffee. Anna smiled shyly. "You gave me shelter. Let me earn my stay." Caleb nodded with quiet gratitude. As the weeks passed, they worked side by side. Caleb repaired fences buried beneath snow, while Anna sewed warm blankets, cared for the cabin, and organized supplies for the long winter ahead. Each evening they sat together beside the crackling fireplace, sharing stories of childhood loss and dreams they believed had disappeared forever. Anna discovered Caleb wasn't poor at all. He owned healthy horses, fertile mountain land, and enough supplies to survive comfortably. But he chose a simple life because he believed wealth meant little unless it served others. Their growing friendship soon became the talk of nearby settlers. Some warned Caleb that strangers couldn't be trusted. Others whispered that Anna would leave the moment spring arrived. Caleb ignored every cruel rumor. "Character isn't measured by yesterday," he calmly replied. "It's revealed by today's choices." One freezing afternoon, a widow and her young son became stranded during a blizzard. Without hesitation, Caleb welcomed them inside while Anna prepared hot soup, dry blankets, and fresh bread. Watching Anna comfort the frightened child while giving away her own blanket touched Caleb deeply. He realized the warmth filling his home came not from the fire, but from the woman whose grateful heart reflected his own. By Christmas Eve, laughter echoed through the little cabin where only silence had lived before. For the first time in years, Caleb looked forward to tomorrow instead of merely surviving today. Spring finally melted the snow, revealing green valleys stretching beneath brilliant blue skies. Wildflowers bloomed around the cabin, birds returned to the mountain forests, and the once lonely homestead became one of the happiest places in the valley. One afternoon, a wealthy businessman arrived with expensive clothes and polished boots. He recognized Anna and offered her a comfortable position managing his large household in the city. The salary was more money than she had ever imagined earning. He promised luxury servants and an easy life far away from the rugged mountains. Caleb never tried to influence her decision. Though his heart quietly broke, he simply said, "You deserve every happiness this world can offer." Anna looked toward the small log cabin glowing beneath the afternoon sun. She remembered the freezing night she had nearly died, the warm fire, the fresh bread, and the man who had slept in a cold barn so a complete stranger could live. Then she gently smiled. "A grand house cannot replace the home built by kindness," she answered. The businessman left without another word. Later that evening, Caleb and Anna sat together on the old wooden bench outside the cabin as gentle snowflakes from a late spring storm drifted across the mountains. Caleb took a deep breath and quietly asked, "Would you stay? Not because you need shelter, but because you've become my home." Tears filled Anna's eyes as she placed her hand in his. "The night you gave me your house," she whispered, "you also gave me back my faith in people. I've already chosen where I belong." They married beneath the towering pines that summer, surrounded by grateful neighbors whose lives they had touched through countless acts of kindness. Together they opened their cabin to every traveler who needed warmth, food, or hope. No one was ever turned away. Years later, people throughout the frontier would remember the little mountain home where love began with one simple sentence, "You'll not sleep in the cold." They learned that true greatness is never measured by wealth or comfort, but by the sacrifices made for strangers who become family. If this story warmed your heart, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who still believes that kindness can change a life. Until next time, remember, a generous heart is the richest home anyone can ever build.